How China's air power stacks up against the United States. The Department of Defense's 2021 report on military and security developments involving the People's Republic of China was released this week. The report details China's military capabilities, strategies, and goals. Those goals are being pursued through large-scale military modernization and force expansion, along with scientific and technology initiatives leading to advances in new weapons areas such as hypersonics. China's air power is one subject of the report. China has a much smaller air force than the United States and operates relatively few fifth-generation stealth fighters. China is a dominant regional power and moving to assert itself as a dominant, far-reaching global power. Will have a much smaller air force than the United States impede its ability to project global air power? GlobalFirepower.com states that the United States now operates more than 10,000 more air platforms than China. The United States operates 13233 aircraft, compared to China's reported 3,260 total aircraft. However, there are many reasons why the Pentagon is not likely to dismiss the Chinese air threat. China's growing global footprint in places such as Africa and areas of the Middle East might enable it to position air forces to conduct regional or geographically targeted smaller attacks. This Chinese basing effort, coupled with the addition of a stealthy carrier-launched jet able to launch from the ocean, might help China compensate for its lack of tankers. The US-China tanker deficit is glaring. China is reported to operate only 3 tankers compared to a US Air Force tanker fleet of 625 aircraft, according to GlobalFirepower.com. This discrepancy could mean that even if China were well positioned in the Pacific, it may be unable to mount any kind of major cross-continental air campaign without operating a much larger tanker force or expanding its forward base. China also suffers from another often overlooked discrepancy when it comes to its helicopter fleet. GlobalFirepower.com states that China only operates 902 helicopters, far less than the 5,400-plus US helicopter fleet. Having fewer helicopters could encumber maritime attack mission options for China in places such as the South China Sea or complicate efforts to reinforce amphibious landings in Taiwan or Japan with troops. Having so few helicopters would also challenge China's ground forces should the country need to defend itself from an invasion. While it is difficult to imagine any attacking country trying to fight a land war in mainland China, China's helicopter deficit might make it difficult for the People's Liberation Army to deliver infantry from the air in uneven terrain or plateau areas, conduct medevac missions, or provide close air support. Despite this, China has the production infrastructure and willpower to propel a large-scale People's Liberation Army Air Force expansion. An ability to quickly mass-produce new fifth-generation aircraft and helicopters appears possible for China as it pursues its strategic objectives. China's ambitions in this regard, according to the Pentagon report, are extremely significant as the country is pushing to achieve the great rejuvenation of the Chinese nation by 2049, if not sooner. China's defense apparatus doesn't just spend less per soldier on pay and benefits, they also spend significantly less on training their troops. Whether we're talking about enlisted door kickers or Top Gun fighter pilots, Chinese troops see substantially less training on their way to their military occupations, and then consistently receive less training throughout the extent of their military careers. This disparity in training time is particularly conspicuous among the fighter pilot ranks. Per changes to their pilot training pipeline instituted in 2020, PLA pilots have about 278 flight hours under their belts before they're given their first assignment to a combat-ready unit. American fighter pilots, on the other hand, spend between 250 and 300 hours flying before they even transition into the type of aircraft they'll fly in service. This experiential disparity only grows from there. The number of hours American fighter pilots spend flying their respective aircraft each month varies by branch, location, and aircraft availability, so using ranges may be more appropriate than hard numbers when assessing ongoing training time. Last year, fighter pilots in the U.S. Air Force averaged between 228 and 252 hours of flight time in their aircraft. Chinese pilots, on the other hand, saw between 100 and 110. American pilots, then, often have more than double the flying experience of their similarly aged peers in the PLA. It's important to note that the budget restricts training hours. A single F-22 Raptor, for instance, costs Uncle Sam about $70,000 per hour to fly, so training costs add up quickly. The same goes for the rest of China's People's Liberation Army personnel. In 2018, China doubled its training timeline for PLA troops from 3 months to 6 months. Upon completion of that 6-month training period, troops report to their respective units, where they'll be expected to learn their jobs as they do them.